Tiramisu by yourself sitting at a table. It's so very nice. Just kidding. How's everybody? Inside jokes here on Capes and Cowls. I hope you're all doing well. Today, what is today? Today is She-Hulk Episode 8, spoiler-heavy review for the Capes and Cowls crew. I know that you guys are here for. We know that Daredevil's in the damn show. Don't spoil it. They've been spoiling it since Episode 1. So, tough S. H-I-T is great. I love T sometimes. So, anyway. Winston liked that one. Anyway.
I don't know why.
It's stupid.
It was stupid.
It's stupid. But you know what's not stupid? You guys. You guys are so great. And I appreciate everything that you've done for us so far. I mean, you've done so much. And a lot of people are always asking how to support the show. Well, you can go to Spotify. And Capes and Cowls is on there every Friday on the big thing. So make sure you check that out. That's on Spotify, obviously. And if you don't, well, I don't listen to Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Well, lucky for you, we're also on Apple Podcasts. You can go on Apple Podcasts, you check that out. Well, what if I want to support, or what if I want to get some of the extra, I want to do those watch-alongs. I want to be part of the, I want to see, you and Coy and Winston doing rewatches every month. Well, you can join the Patreon. And we just put, well, look, Brett and I just tortured ourselves and watched The Munsters, a full-on reaction, and you can watch the full version there. All full versions are on the Patreon, whether it's the Andor ones that we do and all that stuff, and that's on Patreon. You can join that at patreon.com/thebigthingshow. Thank you to everybody who joined the Amazon list. That's not even accurate. There's hardly anything left on that Amazon list. So if you want to go and check that out, you can. It's in the link in the description. But thank you guys so much for everybody who's contributed to this studio. Everything you're seeing, you're about to see, is because of you guys. It's Winston and Coy walked in here before, and it just keeps evolving, and it's not stopping. And that's also thank you to Brett Sheridan, who's been working tirelessly every day. Although the lazy bastard missed a day on Monday and Tuesday, but other than that, we're good to go, man. Keanu Reeves might be directing a movie. We're going to have our thoughts, non-spoiler, on Werewolf by Night. There's a lot of other things. There's other movies, something else coming out that I was going to talk about. I can't remember what it was. Doesn't matter. We have a lot that we'll talk about. It's Capes and Cowls, everybody. Let's get into it. Me, Winston, and Coy is back, so let's do it. Tiramisu. I love you. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Capes and Cowls. Thank you for joining us. Coy.
I always wonder what the words were to that song now.
Winston. Now you know.
You're always curious. Man.
What?
I just didn't know.
No. It's inside joke. Inside joke.
Yeah, that's fine. I just didn't know you were that petty.
I am.
You
made a song about it?
Enough that you made a song, and you can go out and sing it, Tiramisu, Tiramisu. And I just have to sit here and take it? Is that how this works?
Oh, my friends, how I miss you. Because you're not here. I'm sitting by myself.
That's fine.
It's nice to see everybody. I hope everybody's good. Look at these lights behind Coy.
They look good.
Winston.
They look good.
It looks good, man. And it's coming along, and we're excited that you guys get to join us. Look at that.
It's a good shot.
Go to your shot, though, real quick. I think you see that black over there?
Oh, is that a thing again? I think
I think so.
Yeah, I did that last time, I think, though, too.
Yeah, just checking on it.
There it is. Yep.
Yeah.
I always think it blends. I always think it's the screen.
Right, but I was like, that's too
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
So, we got a lot to talk about. The first thing, actually, we will talk, obviously, about She-Hulk, where we're going to talk about that. But I did want to bring up, because you guys had mentioned, we had Sholometa Dueña on last week. You guys said you checked it out. Thank you. And he's, of course, playing Blue Beetle. Mm-hmm. And we didn't get a lot of news going in before that about Blue Beetle. And he and I talked about it for like a half an hour.
Yeah.
He didn't give any plot. What I thought he did very smart was he talked about the comics and the story of the comics.
Because those aren't spoilers. You can buy those comics.
You can do that. You can go look it up right now.
Yeah, and it seemed as if he was talking about everything inside the comics to me. He did not confirm this at all, but it did seem like that's going to be some of the stuff that we will see in the movie.
Yeah. Seemingly.
I don't know anything about Blue Beetle, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know how much you guys know about the character in general. I'm excited about the movie because of Sholo. My relationship with Sholo, I think he's a phenomenal kid. Brett was sitting in the studio for it, and she's like, that kid is awesome. He's just a good human being.
Smart dude.
he's been like that since he's 16 years old.
Wow.
And he's just a really good person. And I root for him. But tell me a little bit about why, as fans of are you guys both familiar with it enough?
Yeah, like
yeah.
medium.
Why?
Yeah.
So what's exciting about this character?
There's a couple things. I think the immediate on its face is the representation side of it. The fact that Jaime Reyes just being of Latino descent,
First, Latino-led superhero, right? Inside of DC.
So that's it's huge like that. But I guess the easiest way to think about Blue Beetle and like his power set, for example, think like Iron Man's like nano suit that he was using against Thanos.
Yeah.
And instead of like Friday being kind of nice, imagine an alien that hates all humans and thinks of them just as like meat bags.
So it's kind of like Venom a little bit.
A little bit like Venom.
Yeah.
Venom Iron Man. That is a perfect way to describe it. So when you're adding that in the fact that I'm assuming they're picking up where he normally is around a teenager age.
I would assume. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Wisholo, but that's the other part is the idea that like it lends itself to comedy in that it's like, oh, that your pulse is elevated. You must be in the middle of a battle. Should I vaporize her? No, that's my girlfriend. Please don't hurt her. Like it's so this idea of the teenager trying to work his shit out, but then trying to work his stuff out, but then also figuring out what it is to be a superhero and kind of helping the alien tech become less hostile. There's just a lot of those elements there of just really trying to find himself about the character that makes him so lovable and makes you want to root for him because he's just trying to he reminds me so much of Peter Parker or Miles Morales, but just with the sidekick essentially. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, I was going to say the underdog element is what draws me to him. I really like characters that feel like it's always them against the world, much like Spider-Man, much like Invincible, much like Ms. Marvel. Those characters that feel like, oh, they're all of us because we've all, especially if you enjoy comic books, you tend to be the guy that's like fighting against things or girl that's fighting against things. And I think that Xolo is able to, I mean, especially with what he's done in Cobra Kai, he's able to show an earnestness that's really like on his sleeve. And I think Blue Beetle, the thing I like about Blue Beetle is while he's got the dichotomy of the sidekick, he's also emotional. Like his everything he is very available. So the availability of those emotions, I think he's going to handle really well. And I also think he's got a leadership quality. And down the line, you've got like Blue Beetle and Booster Gold, which is a really fun duo. Down the line, like there are certain elements where in a team it's dynamic.
Well, because originally Booster was friends with the OG Blue Beetle, Cord.
Yeah.
And Cord didn't have the scarab. He discovered it, this alien tech, but he was just a hero on his own.
Just
he was
a guy.
Like a really smart scientist that made his own tools.
But to be honest, I think that they won't do multiple Blue Beetle. I think Booster Gold can work with Xolo.
Absolutely. Because Booster then becomes like a pseudo mentor, like a bad mentor, because Booster Gold is an ass.
I want like a Zac Efron type. I want like a, you know what I mean? Like a social media. So Booster Gold's like an influencer from the future. Basically that uses superheroism to be like
to be rich and famous. He wants to come back and be rich and famous. So he's like, I know what'll happen. I'll go back to the age of Superman because like they could use my help. And then he just keeps getting his ass
awful
until eventually.
Really
so it's a really fun, and that duo
fun.
is really fun because one's like emotionally available, one's like kind of a prick.
Well, it sounds fun, and I'm hearing you guys talk about it, hear Xolo talk about it, and the fact that it comes out in August. There's so much. We talked about it on Big Thing yesterday. All the things that are coming out
next year is going to be big for us on this channel.
In general, yes, for sure. In this channel, absolutely. But the amount of movies that come out outside of the comic book realm and March through like the end of August is just stacked. But inside of the comic book realm, it starts in February with like Ant-Man.
And Ant-Man looks huge.
It's going to be massive.
Everyone's finally seen that trailer, right?
Which
no,
one?
I don't think he's seen it yet because it hasn't
still
come
not
out.
official.
It hasn't come out yet. So that one comes out in February, and then you've got the Marvels that come out. You've got I'm hearing, and I'm sure you guys are too. I got off the phone with somebody the other day who saw The Flash in a test screening and said it is out of control good.
I mean, Andy Muschietti is one of the best directors working.
Now, this is temp score, though. This is temp score. Said that it is super emotional. Said that Keaton is out of control good, and that just it is not campy, and it works.
Wouldn't it have to be? You know what I mean? Like the bar is so high. Like I've never seen a movie have to be as good as this has to be to rationalize
for them to not only not throw it out, but also what 250.
Yeah.
You
How can it be? Yeah.
Better get it right for 250.
Well, Roxy said it yesterday on the show, and you just said it too. It makes a lot more sense if it's that good. It makes a lot more sense why Zoloft is going
Figure it out.
Figure it out.
Whatever it is, figure it out. And that's saying a lot because whatever it is every crime.
Get Ezra into therapy. I don't care what it is. I don't care what they want him to do. I don't care if they want him to put on a spacesuit. Whatever it is, do it.
Because Wonder Woman crossed $1 billion, but it would be I believe. But this would be the first one. So this would be your second $1 billion DC movie.
Comes out at the end of
Nolan.
Yeah, comes out at the end of June. I don't know if Dark Knight
didn't Rises.
I don't know if it made $1 billion, but either way, but nonetheless, it's still going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
It comes out in June. You've got Shazam that comes out.
Yeah.
You've got that movie. You've got the Marvels that are coming out. You've got Guardians that's coming out. It's going. Summer is going to be nuts. I mean, and not even summer. 2023 is going to be
all
nuts
of it
because it's a lot of this stuff that got pushed out of 2022 into 2023, which is already a stacked 2023.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, and then you couple up the Blue Beetle with that as well at the end of August. There's so much to be at, and that's not mentioning the shows.
Right.
And so if we do mention some shows, what we have right now is the She-Hulk right now, and She-Hulk, we'll get to all this stuff in a second. I want to get away from this. Just give me a second. So She-Hulk.
Werewolf.
No, I know. I don't have all this.
There he is.
With that. We can start. Look, Daredevil.
I love that that's how they decided to
hallways, man.
Hallways, bro.
Yeah, well, that was a pretty good idea. We have a bunch of images that we'll show here in this idiot. Hey, there he is. So She-Hulk. Perfect. We got there. She-Hulk turning in
by way of James Earl Jones. We got there.
We got there. This putz shows up, and right away I'm like, oh, here we go again. I'm like, this is gonna be we're right back. I'm like, why don't they just go and stop working for this show and work for the boys because they want to be the boys so badly? And so the show starts, and all this happens, and I'm like, okay, here we go, leapfrog, and don't give me he's in the comics. I don't care. It's terrible.
I've given up using that as an argument for you.
Terrible. I'm like, okay, and then they go. What I did like right away was, oh, she's actually gonna be a lawyer in this episode. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah,
and it's been a while.
Yeah, and not she's gonna be the defendant on a trademark. Not she's going to a wedding. Not she's going to. She's gonna.
Law.
It's what we haven't dealt with this since Blonsky, I think.
This is what right.
Wong.
Well, yes, yeah.
That was episode 3.
Yeah, that was like
episode 3.
Right. So, but that's what I thought the show. So I'm like, okay, we're into that. Now I'm starting to get on board a little bit more with it. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but yes, it's been a while.
Yeah, but now I'm getting a little bit more on board with it. So I'm like, okay, great. So then she goes back to the worst designer in the world who should be representing her from the start because she's the only female Hulk in the world, but he wants to let his ego get a hold of it. And now I liked their back and forth that he's like, oh, you're going to do what to me now? Mm-hmm. Okay, get the hell out of here. I'm not going to work. And he tears the suit. Thought it was a funny moment. I'm like, okay, this is the stuff that I like so far because she's doing her thing.
And it's balanced.
It's balanced. And then, so she sits down and like, who's your representation? I'm like, okay, well, we clearly know.
I genuinely didn't put 2 and 2 together.
You didn't?
I got it right at, well, then who is it? I go, oh, like it literally clicked at the last second.
What time did you watch it?
5 in the morning, kind of stuff. I was literally sitting here eating a peanut butter jelly sandwich at 5 in the morning, just like, right.
I'm going to give you a pass because
the rest of us put it together.
This is what that was.
Actually, it might have just been on the tee. It might have just been a tee, but it might have just been sitting there.
But nonetheless, so he shows up. And I was.
Is that Daredevil?
right.
Literally, when he goes, I'm not an idiot. I have a lawyer. And I was like, oh, like that literally.
Then you knew who it was.
Matt Murdock's in this show? Right. I hadn't heard.
That's right. But he shows up, and there he is. And he shows up, and so I'm not going to lie that I was on. I'm like, okay, let's see how they're going to represent him now because Kingpin, they did dirty. And
you were worried.
What's that?
You were worried.
I was worried.
Yeah.
So I'm like, now. Not that he was going to crack jokes, because he cracked jokes in Netflix.
All the time. Yeah.
And they started with him. His first line is a joke, and it's, I was parking. I'm like, that's a Matt Murdock joke.
That's a Matt Murdock joke.
I'm like, okay. I'm like, we're in good shape here. Thought he was handled perfect.
Yeah.
Thought he was handled really well. And he comes in there, annihilates her in the courtroom, as he should. He's way more experienced at this at the moment. Mm-hmm. Comes in, does it. Plus, she should have done a little more research and said, hey, Did you sign? Did you look at all the paperwork? Did you do everything she didn't?
She did her due diligence
Especially with
before.
this kid being that was the only thing that I thought was interesting. But I know you had to write it that way because you needed that to happen. But
also the way I rationalized it was she didn't want to take the case and it was rushed.
Right. No, it definitely was that. But I thought, knowing that she's like, this dude is a moron, that would have been something she would have thought about ahead of time. Yeah. But I think
she let her personal feelings get in the way because she wanted to, after he ripped up her suit or her dress,
she wanted to get at him.
She wanted to get at him.
Yeah.
So it became personal, and because of that, she lost the case. And I'm like, that's great. I'm like this. So I right away felt myself like, this feels like episodes 1 and 2.
Yeah.
This feels like the show that I was like, oh, this is the one. I don't give a crap who likes the show. I love this show. I'm like, I'm starting to get back to that after those rough last couple of ones, and then they go and they go to the bar, and this is when we really get to see their chemistry happen between the two of them.
And one of the best lines of dialogue in the show happens,
which was
for me, where Matt Murdock is explaining that she, as Jen and as She-Hulk, can represent the best in all things.
Yeah.
Society when society fails, law and when law fails. And I thought that was the beautiful thing about this show is the entire 8 episodes or 7 episodes to this point, she's been fighting between wanting to be Jen or wanting to be She-Hulk. We've seen her physical insecurity. We've seen her boastfulness. We've seen a myriad of different emotions and her leaning one way or the other. That was the thesis statement, is you can be both, embracing both sides of you. And I think that that's one of the things I like most about superheroes is when you find that moment where you're embracing all of you, when you're embracing the hero and you're embracing the person, when you're the secret identity. So to have it spelled out in a line of dialogue from Matt Murdock as like Charlie Cox nailed that duality.
Yep.
And that made, honestly, the rough patches in this show worth it for me. That single line, like that line, I was like, okay, the show, I'll memorize it.
I think, like you said, because we've been fighting with that this entire series so far, it does feel like a redeeming moment.
It rationalizes honestly. 7 episodes versus 5.
It does.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of people are like, oh, the show's one of the ones that has filler episodes. But we need those highs and lows. Not necessarily saying all the episodes are equally good, but what it is saying is we needed her to feel all those different things before we got to that epiphany.
I hear what you're saying. I agree with a portion of it, meaning that I think that you still could have done the lawyer thing with her even I can still go back to that episode, whether it was the wedding episode. I know why she had to go there, but the side thing of the apologies guy, that's a case in a different episode that she should have taken. That with the
Mr. Immortal.
Yes. Now, like those types of things, but the understanding of her getting to that place of the confidence, right? And it was good that because what we know is with their chemistry, we know that Matt Murdock's a good guy. He's not going to dick her over like everyone else. We know that. So we're at that point. We're going, thank God this isn't going to happen again, because the part of we've been there and we've been through her journey, so it makes more when she finally gets a meaningful relationship. I agree with that, but the beating you over the head with it consistently every episode was like, what I brought up, Winston, inside of this was like when you had in Cobra Kai, how long can you have Johnny and Daniel fight before you eventually they got to figure it out. Yeah, it's the same thing with her.
Yeah, unless you find a fresh reason to do it. So like for example, them constantly fighting and it being kind of stupid, and then I think the moment that did is when like we got to team up, and then we can't do this. Fine, we're gonna fight one more time to show who the real big dog is. You know what I mean? And I think that's where you ended up with Eagle Fang for a minute.
Yeah, but in general, but watching her, like, again, she's not desirable. No one, and it's like Tatiana Maslany is hot.
Yeah,
she's funny. I mean, there's nothing about her in this that I'm going like everybody thinks she's like not desirable.
But I did love the actual like palpable chemistry to show what it should feel like. The spark was, you know what I mean?
100%.
Because when that happened, I was like, wow, this is everything. This is what I want.
So we saw the scene at D23.
Yeah,
they show the rooftop scene, and that the lead up to that. Now we got inside this episode, and I think that the way that they played it was really good, and I think that Charlie Cox and Daredevil. As Daredevil was consistent to what we were hoping, and he played into the tone because the tone shifted in this one.
Yeah.
It wasn't a complete silly show anymore. It was a silly show mixed with a Marvel show.
Right.
That's why I enjoyed this episode.
Absolutely.
because it was the blend, and it wasn't just like stupid frog. I'm using my one. S-hole was horrible in the beginning. And then as he froggered out throughout the episode, I'm like, okay, fine. He's
serviceable.
He's serviceable, and because the guy that she's sitting at the table with also has the Wakanda spear. I like that scene, and I laughed.
Todd Phillips.
So
did you catch that?
No, what did he?
He's been named Todd the whole time, and then they called him Mr. Phillips, so his name is Todd Phillips.
Hilarious.
Wait, why are they doing that though? I know who Todd Phillips is, but
I imagine they're going at we live in a society kind of like, you know what I mean? Like
okay.
who made the Joker movie? Like, is this not the time? So the guy's name is Todd Phillips.
It's funny, but that's not what I laughed at was she pulled a Phoebe from Friends when whatever he said to her, he said something really offensive to her. Then she goes no, and she throws the table. I laughed pretty hard at that one, and I actually, for all you people who abuse it, I LOL'd.
Oh,
LOL.
The text came true.
Do you see my comment, Winston, when people LOL in the comments?
No, what do you do?
If it's not, Brett and I have this ongoing thing that it's like if someone goes, LOL, you guys didn't really watch this. I'm like, wait a minute. So you're telling me this is what you did? They didn't really watch this. I go, LOL, that's not really true. LOL, we did actually watch it. LOL. And I was like, I hate LOL so much. Whoever invented LOL should be put in a garbage can and dumped down the street.
It had a point in time where it was very important. The chats, bro. When you were back in that, you didn't. You were too old for that.
I guess it's abused.
I've always been abused. Are you a haha or an LOL?
Haha.
Depends.
I'm a haha.
Depends on my mood.
Haha, but haha is real.
I don't know that I've ever texted.
But you actually LOL, so I take it for real.
I do.
Yeah.
I've seen you LOL.
I've maybe texted LOL like in life like 24 times, but they've always been accurate. Like when I've actually lolled.
I know Winston. Winston LOL.
Oh, he does.
You should actually, just speaking about this, you should ask about Ellis going to his show, because he was like, yo, you're not RB3. And who was the other person he named? He just like, you're not RB3, but god damn did I know you were at that show, because I was in the very back. He was in like I lost
you LOL.
A hardcore. Did the whole black like
but that's what I mean though. So, but like when Winston LOLs in the comments or anything, I'm like, he's LOLing.
He meant it.
Don't abuse her.
I LOL'd a lot in this episode.
But I did too. I mean, to be honest, even to have her to be like, yeah, I bought this Wakandan, you know, like Wakanda. Don't do that. That's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was fun.
Because I was like, yeah, no, that they got me. They got me in the one moment. I was like, yeah, they're making some complaint that like colonizers stole it or something like that. Like I was like, yo, everything about that. I hear Shuri and Okoye being like, why did this?
Also, I hear every message board. Like, I love how well they've captured the people that I like disrespect our fandoms. Like, I love that they really captured the people I hate most about being considered Marvel fans.
Yeah.
And Todd Phillips has been captured. Like, this character is so beautifully the people we have to deal with.
He's playing it well. But
and honestly, I think that this episode, to me, like obviously to me, far and away best episode of the season. Yeah. But it's also up there with some of the best MCU episodes. Like, this episode did what it needed to do in balancing action and comedy. It did what I want shows to do, where they use action to further the narrative as well as the action to keep you invested. And it made sure the characters served each other while not sacrificing either character.
So I agree with that. It's the best episode of the series so far. I'm not going to put it as far as Marvel goes too, because Frog Boy took me out. I'm sorry. He just took me out.
See, I guess I can understand that, but I guess if you probably answer me
I know
this
you
question,
needed him. I know you needed him.
I was gonna say if you didn't just deal with Man Bull and Ava,
it doesn't matter.
Either way,
would I mind it as much?
No. Right.
No. So
you've got a bad taste in your mouth, and that's why.
100%. It's consistently throughout the show where they've been doing it with all these different kind of just where do all these people come from?
And they're just suddenly there. On my rewatch of Phase 4, I'm probably gonna watch 1, 2, 8, and 9. That's it. Like I'll probably, you know what I mean? Like that's gonna be my 2 hours.
Also, answer me this question: is this the first time that we got the official in canon announcement that the Sokovia Accords were repealed? Because
first time I've heard it since.
That was I was like, oh, okay,
well,
there.
This episode did a lot. It world built out the MCU. Yep. It built us in these characters getting their lead moments. It furthered the narrative, and it balanced out all of the highs and lows of Jen. But it also finally gave us a reason for every single person who have been poking the bear like they have. The ending was amazing.
Yes, this was the show that I thought this was going to be.
It's what they were told from the beginning.
Yeah, it was her as a lawyer. It was her trying to figure herself out, how to balance in between the dating life, but it was a Marvel show. Mm-hmm. Throughout all of it, it was a combination of both. It was, and what I think is unfortunate is the fact that it's like, well, the reason why it's so good is because Daredevil was in it. And it's
No,
not the
it
case.
just happens to be written
It
balanced.
just happened because he was the character that helped her balance it out, but it could have been any of those things to where it was like where she was, you know, when it was Hulk in the first one, it was they balanced it out.
And if Daredevil wasn't as beloved, and they say we never got Charlie Cox's Daredevil, this would still be an exceptional episode without all the built-in fandom of Daredevil, because they both happen to be the two horniest characters in Marvel. So it worked to introduce him.
So you're saying if he was brand new and he never seen him in Netflix or anything.
Like, if we just got Charlie Cox today, this would still be as exceptional, because that's a logical way to introduce them. Those are the two characters that hook up the most. Those are the two characters that get some.
There's the Mount Rushmore of horniness in Marvel.
100% those two.
Is the two of them, Tony Stark and
Zeus.
Yeah.
I think Nick Fury nails.
I think he does, but he's covert. About it. But we just don't hear about it.
Yeah.
Like, he's
He
definitely
don't put
like
his business out there.
No, he doesn't.
he's put in the work.
But you're right. But and a lot of that and the way that they played into that in general. But what I also liked, what we didn't talk about inside of that scene with the two of them here, when she's like, "Why are you even here? Don't you have a whole thing in New York?" And because the audience is going, "Wait a minute, why isn't he in New York? He was just in New York with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Why isn't he in New York?" And he's like, "Well, I do this work because we have a pro bono thing in New York, and it doesn't bring us a lot of money, which brings back to which clever." And then it's like, and I help out from here and there and do some things. And you're like,
and why he represented that guy was clever, because 2 lines into his defense, it was, "Oh, I'm covering my hero's ass." Like, he's covering other heroes. Like, 2 lines in, you know why he took that case.
Yeah.
2 lines in, you know why he would go against Jen. And in comic books, heroes always fight before they team up. They managed to make Matt and Jen fight before they teamed up, and Daredevil and She-Hulk fight before they teamed up in 20 minutes.
And they kept it consistent with his character, where he walks in and he goes, "Look, that was business.
Yep.
I'm India. I think, and you're pretty great right off the bat. We're like, this is finally a good dude."
And the immediate unmasking, which would happen in real life.
Right away. Right
like
away.
She-Hulk would, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
If you're a Hulk, you unmask the guy you're fighting.
Who is it?
And that was
like,
genius.
I thought it was great, because a lot of times it's like, oh, they're not going to reveal it. Like when
Sam Raimi's Spider-Man,
when
Sam
Willem
Raimi's
Dafoe's
Spider-Man.
leaving him sitting on the roof
for days. He's just like, what's going to happen?
Yeah,
like,
dude. It was both that the line she said, she's like, "Bro, did you really just pretend to be blind?"
That was hilarious.
That's a low blow.
Yeah. Between the Wakanda jokes, the pretend to be blind, like, they handled so many of the commentaries on these characters so well.
He's like, no, take it easy.
What, you got echolocation? Yeah, sure, fine.
All of
awesome.
that.
And Matt, like, giving her crap like she's just started this journey. Like, you've never done this.
Right.
And the goons versus henchmen stuff, that's all peak comic book. And the way it was shot. The backgrounds, good God, was this a comic book frame?
The callback afterwards, where she's like, "Well, no, let me." He's like, "I've been doing this for a while. Let me go do my stealth thing. It's a better way to go in." And she's like, no, let me just go in. I'll smash everything. And she was like, "You don't want to lead with the superpowers?" And he's like, "I have superpowers." She goes, "Oh, what? Oh, right. Your bat stuff, right? Your echolocation, right?" And he's like, "You know what?"
Yeah, even at the end when she's just like, "See what it's," and the two jokes where she's talking about the half an hour. He's like, "You're still not getting the math part of this."
Yeah.
That's part one. And she's like, "Yeah, but it took you so long." He's like, "Yeah, but you caused a lot of problems." Great. It was a great conversation, and it wasn't shticky. It was what we've always talked about on this show and in general, whether it's Star Wars or anything too. Does it fit the characters?
Right.
It fit the characters.
And built out the narrative.
Yeah,
which is so hard to do.
Yes, and Daredevil wasn't doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, look at me.
He would care about property damage, and it's a funny joke.
All of that, because he's got to probably pay attention to it. But the thing that I think that everybody was talking about, and rightfully so, within now, obviously, this scene we talked about, which was hilarious. They battle. She puts on the stuff that she did from episode 1, right? They have the fight. It's pretty equal because he's flipping around.
Rather they put his yellow and red outfit too.
Yeah,
see him better
too. Yeah, and then so they have their conversation, and then we have this moment. Now, what was so great about this was a lot of different things. Obviously, if you're a fan of the Netflix series, you knew right away, like, oh, they're doing a hallway scene.
Yeah.
And then if you paid attention, they play the Daredevil theme from Netflix for just like just for a bit.
Just a couple keys.
Just for a couple keys. And you know, like, okay, here we go. And he does this thing, and it was an homage to it. It was a respect to it. I thought it was a classy move for them. They're saying, like, because there's been all this talk about, like, well, it's completely different. Mm-hmm. But they paid respect to. They knew the fan base of it. Obviously, he's in the damn show.
Yeah.
So I thought that the way that they handled this particular moment was done very well, because you gave Daredevil that time to shine, but you still gave She-Hulk her moment when she comes crashing in, knocks through those other people, and then they team up and they go, all right, let's go do the thing.
I think the highlight for me, as good as this episode was, and it really was, I think the highlight was finally seeing what this big plot was to kind of take her down. To know what worries me, though, because this has happened multiple times with these Marvel shows, they wait for this twist to happen in the penultimate episode. So then when we get to the other one, I feel rushed that we're just resolving everything. So I am a little nervous, I'll be honest. I would have preferred this happening an episode prior so we have some time to digest what the big problem is and go into it.
I hope it's a long finale.
I hope so, too. If they at least do that, that would help alleviate some of my stress. But the fact that they have spent a lot of time actually that the main villain has been exactly what's been happening to the show the whole time.
Yeah.
So all the people that were so anti-MCU, all that kind of stuff, it's like, and now they're out here taking like illegal sex tapes and trying to like paint her as
so let's talk about that. So she goes, so they rescue the designer from Frogface, and I like that moment where she picks up Frogger. He's like, "That's vintage." Throws it on the floor. Has them, and I also going back to what we were just talking about, the kind of questions that you would ask. He's given all these facts. Daredevil's given all these facts about law, and the guy goes, "Wait, is the devil guy a lawyer too?"
Yeah, just a big fan.
And he's like, "No, I'm a fan of
procedural shows or whatever." Yeah,
it
was great because it's like that's what I would ask. I'm like, "Wait, who is that guy?"
Yeah.
And so they did that, but then, as we mentioned, the designer, he's like, "I'm not a monster. I'll make you the design, or the dress, whatever." And then the friend comes in. She addresses the camera and says, "Well, what'd you?" We still more to do because let's not forget about the fact that they do the deed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
the walk of shame. The walk of shame in the suit because that's the only clothes he'd have. The only clothes he'd have, the boots off, walk of shame. And that Nikki ran into him and
and the long shot of him walking away.
Yeah.
It was
that
great.
Probably shot was genius.
Great. That worked. And again, the balance of the episode, right? And I think that for people that are probably still bummed about it, I probably think that they've been beaten down by the other episodes. There were some people that are just going to be pissed off about it to be pissed off about it. But I do think that fair enough that you're going to be like a little too late, little too late. I was feeling that in the beginning of the episode. And I'm like, all right. And then it got me because they represented the character well, and their dynamic was fantastic.
Really want to rewatch this episode, and that's the first time I've thought that. I'm probably going to rewatch this one within the week before the finale. Yeah. And I haven't felt that about She-Hulk.
So, but the finale though is what we get to the gal. They bring back her parents, which was glad they get to see cousin Larry. Again, he shows up from Perfect Strangers. I kept saying Stranger Things originally, different shows. But wait, real quick though, the thing that they do though, when they start,
remember.
Hold on, real quick. So when they start right away and they go into this whole thing where the awards are happening.
Yeah.
And it's like, and she stands up and she's excited, and then they start announcing
all
everybody else.
Bro, the fact that it was Female Lawyer of the Year, and then
it was all the women,
and there was all the women lawyers.
Woman.
And what is it like to be a female lawyer? Well, kind of like being a lawyer, or follow up half which is twice as hard, half the result, which is something that black people are told all the time. We're told that as kids, you got to work twice as hard for people to notice your. So that resonated true, and then for it to finally like. The big reveal is in the middle of her being like, I'm gonna thank my mom, I'm gonna thank my dad, all my colleagues, everybody that's, what the hell? And then
it starts and the hack happens. And when that hack happens and you're like, you feel dirty because it's like this violation of her entire life.
And it's genuinely uncomfortable. The way they shot it was really...
and she plays it well though too, where she's like, can we shut this off, please? Yeah. And then they don't, and then the Rage Hulk comes out. Now, this is the question I have for both of you guys, because she teases inside before the gala happens, or before the awards happen. She mentions Red Hulk, which is the first time we've kind of got an official mention, I think, of Red Hulk, right? So she mentions Red Hulk, and then they kind of tease something at the end when she's getting all pissed off and she's looking around for the ones who are looking. The red flash starts to happen, and the red is on her.
I'm wondering.
I hope that doesn't mean that she's Red Hulk, right? Like, how does that? Who is Red Hulk in the comics?
Thunderbolt Ross.
No. Well, Red Hulk is Thunderbolt Ross. Red She-Hulk is Betty? No, Betty's a different color.
Betty's like a demon. She's got wings. But she is red. There is a red She-Hulk.
Yes.
It is not as common, but I can't imagine they would... I don't think she'd name drop it and then also become it. I'm
Right.
hoping it's just foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. Okay.
Because Thunderbolts, I think, is going to use Red Hulk.
I think that's probably
Yeah.
what it is. But so she goes in there. I still don't understand why. So the cops are all they're going after her.
Mm-hmm.
She picks up that dude. She's got him. And then her friend's like, Jen, don't. Why not just hold him and take and go, to jail with him?
I think
Why let him go?
I think just that she's unchecked rage right now. She's not.
Yeah,
She's not thinking
not thinking
logically.
straight.
Also, maybe she was
thinking-
saying you dropped the gun. You're trying to show you're not going to hurt him more, to avoid further escalation.
But it's exactly what Bruce told her. He warned her about this, and she was like, "I got it. Like, back off. You don't get it. Like, everybody loves me like this." He goes, "You will not understand until the world sees you like a monster,
Right.
and you cannot put that genie back in the bottle."
right.
Like he warned her that this was coming, and you could see the realization on her face as the rage was still there, but starting to subside. That the guns
Great
in her
CGI
face,
this episode.
people
It was,
running.
it was.
Gorgeous,
Yeah.
right?
What
That
a-
last shot with the foreground shot, that's like straight out of a comic panel.
True. What are the odds that Daredevil shows up in the finale? And before you think about it, if you like odds, go to MyBookie, ladies and gentlemen. MyBookie. Football. It's in full swing, man.
How about the Cowboys?
How about the Giants? They won too. Football, and you pick winners all the time. You love it. So if you can get paid for picking the winners, why don't you do it at MyBookie and get paid for it? You bet single game spreads. There's money lines, parlay multiple together, increase your payouts. Low contest entry fee and over $500,000 to be won. Make it so you don't have to be a pro gambler to have fun. Getting started is easy. You just visit mybookie.ag, and you got to use that promo code Big Thing on your first deposit. And what happens when you do that? You secure a double deposit bonus. That is promo code Big Thing to get your first deposit matched dollar for dollar all the way up to $1,000. MyBookie is a proven sports book that makes it simple to bet and to win. So make this your winning season. Stop that exclusively at
Wasn't me.
MyBookie.
Let's get the crap out.
That was a personal problem.
No, you know what it was? You know what it was? It was an actual. It was the light bulb going off in your head going, I gotta get.
Oh, I gotta get my bookie. No,
You
that was
gotta
smart.
get my
Way to
bookie.
recover.
That's
Way to recover.
That's what it is. So make sure you do that because what I've been seeing from people though, they have been checking it out and they've been going. So I did it. I got my double deposit and I used the code Big Thing. And I saw somebody go, oh, I used my bookie, forgot to use the code, and I didn't get the double deposit. Well, yeah, that's how it works.
You need that one key step.
Make sure you do it. Make sure you do it.
What was-
I wanted to do a correction. Winston just looked it up, and he's absolutely correct. There have been times Betty Ross has been read Hulk, but she is more commonly read as Harpy, which is another gamma-radiated character.
Did
So,
you watch last week's episode? It's okay if you say no.
of the show,
yeah.
I haven't. This show, I haven't. What crap did I get for not being here? I was with my family.
No, it's what you just did.
Oh, what I do?
I said to Winston, I said, Coy's one of the most knowledgeable people in comic books that you'll ever meet. But one of the things, and you know me, I've always said the same things I'd say to you as I'm saying to you right now. Many times have you gone and you sell it like you wrote it, and you could say, absolutely no. Betty Ross has never once even been considered as written. Never happened.
You gotta get his face while you talk this.
Never happened.
Never happened. Not even close.
Not a once. Not a once did it ever happen. Spider-Man has been green since the day he was put on comic books, and his real name was Ralph in Stanley's first, and Ditko, made-up person. And you'd be like, that's all true.
Retraction, Your Honor.
And then you look, and you're like, none of that was real. But then 2 days later, you'll say the same thing. You're like, all right, he probably just made all that up. And it's fact.
I will own it when I know it, though.
Yes.
And I feel like most nerds that say thing with blind confidence will never print the retraction.
No, you do.
I will print the retraction
you do.
and give credit.
I will also give. That's the one thing I wanted to give you credit for is that you didn't go. So I looked it up myself. And actually,
No.
He goes, Winston.
I
won, right? He
accessed
looked
my
it up.
memory banks. They were delayed, and I was correct.
No, 100%. He always owns up to it. So, me, I'm never wrong. All right, let's move. Let's. Darth Plagueis was absolutely in episode 7. Let's get.
Harpy's way more iconic, okay? Betty Ross is the Red Hulk.
Well, let's.
Red She-Hulk.
Well, is there anything else though? But moving into the finale, I guess. So, I agree with you guys that this kind of has to be a longer finale. At least you think. Maybe not.
I don't know how
Is
you
the
wrap
leader
this
coming in?
30 minutes.
How do you wrap it in 30 minutes?
That's what I'm saying. How do you wrap that in 30 minutes? You got to deal with her dealing with what I'm assuming was damage control. It might have been Ross's people, but it looked like damage control. You got to deal with whoever Hulk King is. You got to deal with the fallout of all this. I do not understand how you finish this in 30 minutes. So
I assume the leader.
I would also assume the leader. That seems like the most logical.
Also,
place.
Todd Phillips.
Can you explain the leader?
The leader is Tim Blake Nelson from the Incredible Hulk movie, who was announced for Captain America 4, implying he'd be here. He's also someone that would logically be seeking out her blood, which seems like a thing. So we need Tim Blake Nelson's reintroduction, which can't be quick.
Yeah. I mean, obviously he was obsessed with the Hulk's blood before in the Incredible Hulk, and then if you remember at the end, when Hulk freaks out and then ultimately goes to fight Abomination, he destroys the lab, and that blood drips into his brain.
Yeah, so that the character.
So it will make his head go ginormous, like the biggest head, like a cone head, and green, and he is like. It's
Super
so
brain, right?
interesting that he's not considered the smartest person on the planet for that reason. Because I would argue
He's gamma-powered
intelligence that he's not smarter than Reed or Doom, but go figure.
Well,
I feel
speaking
like-
of Doom, though, real quick, because I think that and it's not something you came up with; it's something you had heard. But with Thing,
It was just a rumor
it was
going
just
around. Oh, that'd be a
was
crazy finale. Yeah, I mean that'd be a way to cop it up big.
yeah.
Noted green characters.
Yes,
Thing.
the other thing I did get confirmation of that I was sniffing around and wanted to see for sure, and I think most people know this, but we kept asking that question about X-Men and saying, okay, what is this deal that Marvel can do? What can't they do?
Yeah.
Right. And so the obvious with Deadpool being in, or Wolverine now being in Deadpool.
Of course, that's the week I missed, by the way.
It was the one you missed.
That does not go without notice that the world conspired against. The thing I've
for that
waited
one.
for most of my life is this announcement.
So are you guys familiar with the way that this Disney Fox deal works? Because I didn't know until recently exactly.
You were saying it last week, but is it different than what you were describing?
No, I think I was pretty. I had thought that what I brought to you, and then I wanted to confirm that, and it pretty much is confirmed. And what that is that they can use Wolverine, they can use Magneto, they can use Professor X, but they got to use Fassbender or Ian or.
So the only thing that's weird about that with Jackman though is Jackman, if you remember, was done. He's like, I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore. So like that's the only contract to me that seems weird that's how that
doesn't mean that it wasn't in his contract in general that he's
or
that
Fox's contracts.
Right. It doesn't mean that he could very well have been out, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't say that if any movies are made with Wolverine in it at all, it's got to be Hugh.
No, but I get what you're saying, but I'm surprised.
Why would you want to do it?
Well, it's not that. I guarantee you, like, because it sounds like an even just a right then and there, he's like, the idea to be in the MCU, I mean, that's cool.
And Ryan
Like,
Reynolds
Also, and Sean Levy, like they are all friends,
Yeah. Right.
and I feel like that was the final straw.
Steel and everything.
Yeah.
So that I all understand. I'm not knocking those reasons why he would want to do it, but I'm saying I'm surprised that of all the characters, that's the only contract I would have been like, well, why wasn't this one different than the others? Because he said, I'm done.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't. You can say you're done if you like. If I have a contract with Coy and it's like basically so, but if I said okay, Coy, so you are contracted that if we make any, I don't know, the redheaded super can, if we make any redheaded super can up until whenever up until 2025, if we make them, you have to be in them. You're like, okay, but I'm done. I don't want to make any more after this. Like, okay, fine. Then we're not going to make any more. And your contract goes, if I sell it, it goes. I'm like, if you want to make another Super Can movie, you got to talk to Coy because
he's the guy until this time.
You can't recast him. You can't recast him. So even though Coy said I'm going to remind you.
Yeah.
Coy said he's done. Coy said he's not. He doesn't want to play Super Can anymore.
But it's my right to come back.
It's your right.
Well,
that's what I think it is. At Fox,
no.
Like an umbrella.
I guess I get that. I guess just if I remember correctly, around when those recastings were happening, around like First Class and whatnot, he had already kind of expressed, I got like maybe one more of these in me.
Right.
I don't want to keep eating nothing but chicken and broth. So I'm just surprised that his contract was set up the same as everybody else's because you had just done all those new contracts for those.
I think
for
it was
those
more about the
players.
merger. I think Fox said when Disney acquired them, I think Fox said any character we've already had.
No,
You
I
think
know
that Fox did this?
I know what he's saying also. What Winston is saying is that like even back then, if they have all these deals together, if they have all these deals in general together, why are they all the same as opposed to Hugh just not signing up for 2 more movies and that's it.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
what I
I think that he's.
I don't think
that's
it's been
what Fox
individual at
did.
any point. I think Fox said, okay, we're gonna merge, but there's a statute of 5 years or whatever it was,
Whatever
4
the
years.
But the actors might have stuff built in there as well too. Even if it was those 2 years,
Yeah.
this could still be one of
It
those
also
things.
might be an anti-monopoly clause.
Yeah, but it could also have been that thing with Hugh Jackman where he's like, even in 2014 when they did Days of Future Past, and he's like, this is the last one I want to do for a little bit. Sorry, but we can't make any more. We can't put Wolverine in it unless you're in it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what your contract states. So,
Yeah.
if we want to do it, we got to come back to you. So I don't think they would have recast him.
Yeah.
And I've seen a decent amount of kickback whenever I mention that 2025 thing, but it seems logical to me, and it seems to be the case.
That is the case.
Yeah.
And
that perfectly lines up because if you look at the date, look at the schedule, right? We've got Fantastic Fours right after
Yeah,
Deadpool.
but I don't think you're getting X-Men until like 2027.
That's what I'm thinking. Is how do you end 2024? What better way than kill everything off with Deadpool, and then go right into Fantastic Four, launch the Fox stuff with the Fantastic Four, set it all up for that to be what's to come, and then Secret Wars. I think they come in like Secret Wars era.
You could cast the X-Men, and you can't cast it or put anything on paper until 2025.
Right. So you just start sprinkling after Fantastic
So when
Four.
you cast quick.
Right.
In 2025.
You have people
and
in
you
mind.
start peppering people in, and I think what do we do? Phase 6 is what it ends.
Phase 6 starts with Deadpool.
I think Phase 7 is the phase
Mutant
of
Saga.
X-Men.
Yeah. I think Deadpool ends it. I don't think Deadpool starts a thing. I think it ends a thing.
I think Phase 7 is gonna star the X-Men.
And I think it's Deadpool. I mean, I this is my pipe dream, but I think it's Deadpool kills the Fox universe. I think Deadpool comes back in and eliminates that whole world. I think you bring the X-Men in and have one last ride. I think Deadpool 3 is Hugh Jackman and Deadpool taking out Fox, and then you have Chris Evans comes back as Human Torch. Michael B. Jordan's back as Human Torch.
Funny.
Ghost Rider is Nick Cage. Take it all
hilarious.
out, and then
Be
that way
hilarious.
you've got that giant melee because it's based on the best-selling comic in Marvel for Deadpool. Is Deadpool kills the Marvel universe? What better way than a fourth wall breaking character? And that way he can stay and swear. Because he'd be knowing he's from another universe. Right. So we bleep him in the Marvel movies, but when he's in his own head in the Deadpool movies, he's R-rated. That's what I'd do.
Yeah.
It's not a bad plan.
Yeah.
I just, it seems weird to wait till 27, but I'll tell you what would probably be happening right now. I think some of those talks are happening. We just talked about how, Holland said he was auditioning for a year for Peter. The truth is they're probably, if they haven't, they're already on that
Taking
process.
some meetings.
They're probably taking meetings for sure.
And that audition process is probably starting mid next year.
Yeah. But look,
to be ready for 2025.
But 2027 isn't weird because if you sign somebody in 2025, what are you going to make a movie in 2026?
Yeah.
You
It's
can't
gotta
do it
get
that
cooked.
fast. It's gotta,
Yeah.
You got a 2-year minimum. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, 'cause unless it's going to be a rushed piece of
And we want it to be like, on TV, we want this to be long form. We want to earn these
Yeah.
characters. And that's why I think it's going to be a big whole phase.
I'm glad they're bringing back, what is it, X-Men 98? Is that what they're calling it? I'm glad they're bringing that back. I think it's going to be great, but I think that, and we may have already discussed this, the reason they're doing that is once they realize the pickle they were in of we can't use these characters right now.
It's a good gateway.
That's not the case with animation.
Right.
So they probably said, okay, we do need to give them X-Men because if there's no X-Men property out there just for the next few years, people are going to revolt.
Yeah.
So that's something to get people into it until you can get them in live action.
But that's
again.
also why I think this Wolverine is the big appetizer when they lock.
Because he
that
represents Fox.
Yeah.
Like when you think of X-Men, you think of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
And don't forget, we got Professor X. He was
Yeah.
the first one. And I think that we're going to get more of those people. I think especially in the multiverse, that's the beauty of the multiverse is the fact they go, okay, look, we got the multiverse. Let's bring in the Fox
let's play.
X-Men. We have it. We're gonna have Jennifer Lawrence come in for for a scene.
Yeah.
Why not?
That's why kill him in Deadpool.
And this whole, but I think they last past it.
Yeah.
Because I think that
Secret Wars, you want to have those
I think
characters.
Secret Wars, you're going to have so much. It's
I
going to
think
be
that's how you do it.
No Way Home times 1,000.
You kill them in Secret Wars.
Oh yeah,
You
I
don't-
think
you
you
don't
kill
do
that
it in
whole
the-
universe.
You don't do it in the Deadpool movie. You do it in Secret Wars, especially if you're talking about the more recent iteration where all of these
Incursion events
are happening. Then it's easy to have, because when that's dropping, you could have already have cast and put those people in it. So if you want to introduce your new Storm, you can then have her paired up with either Ship or Barry. I don't know which one is considered the canon right now, but you put one of the two of them in there, and then that one, if
Both.
this is it, the ship dies.
But you can't
and
though.
the new girl,
You
why?
can't because you can't have any new X-Men in the Secret Wars.
What year is that?
Secret Wars is 2025.
Oh,
Right, you said it was 2025 is when you're allowed to do it, right?
So maybe you sign that paper, and then you have a scene.
I guess you're right. I guess you could. I guess
you just don't have a movie.
You're probably right. I think now that you hear that, you probably could absolutely, if that's the case, if you can cast and you're taking those meetings,
you announce it there.
You announce it.
You announce it with the movie,
and that's how you then shoot into the next couple of years.
If they do
then that's bigger than Avengers.
If they do that, I hope that they don't do what they did with Multiverse and give away the farm that the Illuminati's in it.
Do not show us the X-Men until we're in the theater and have us lose our minds.
Wait until I see like Alexander Shipp land, and then whoever's playing Storm next land too and go, oh my God, that's the old Storm, that's the new Storm. Oh my God, like let me have that moment.
Don't you dare show me the third act in the trailer again.
Well, minus a 5 a.m. stoned thing that most of the people got spoiled from Daredevil, right? Like
I need a really good lawyer.
Yeah, it was like for Daredevil, it was the same thing. Like I didn't watch the thing that they just posted the other day because I was like, I don't need to see it. I'm like, I get that he's coming back, good. We know he's coming back.
That's why I didn't feel bad tweeting about it. I usually am like, I wait a day for spoilers.
I put it on the thumbnail.
But I'm literally like, guys, everyone knows.
Everybody knew about it. I put it on the thumbnail and everybody knew it was coming. So I was like, if somebody complains about it, it's like, you just haven't been paying attention at this point. It's like, you knew he was coming back. And like, and when I was watching that scene, when he shows up, I'm like, how much more effective would it have been
if we had never known?
If everybody felt 5 a.m. stoned. But if everybody felt that way, and you're looking like
surprise,
like because going like, oh, it was almost like that moment when Luke shows up. That wouldn't have been that big, but the way that I felt when I was watching, I remember being in my kitchen when Luke shows up in The Mandalorian,
right?
And the X-wing shows up. I knew, so a lot of people didn't know right away. I knew right away. I'm like, oh, they're doing it. They're doing it, right? And then the same thing, like even if you would have started figuring out and putting 2 to 2 together. Going to bring in Murdoch?
Are they actually? To build the build, because then all that suspense. Right. I get why they put it in the marketing. I wish they hadn't. Because I get they needed to sell the show, and I get a lot of the jokes were playing on our expectations. That's why I think they did it. Like a lot of the fourth wall breaks were at our expense.
I know.
But man, what a moment that would have been.
I mean, y'all just need to wake up at 5 a.m. and with an upset stomach, and then you're just
change your whole experience. Now, before we wrap, we got to talk about. I mean, one of the next Daredevil's biggest news of the week. My boy, my show, my comic.
No, I know we ain't wrapping yet. I'm bringing it up. Let me find it first. Before I do that, because as Coy said, Boom Comics has the Berserker. And,
such a good comic.
And Coy was able to moderate that panel at Comic-Con.
First comic book on Hall H's stage in the world.
Yes. And so Keanu Reeves is now considering directing his Berserker Comics movie adaptation. This was something that kind of came out of nowhere. He hasn't really directed much, at least anything I don't want to say is of note. I mean, but I don't remember him directing anything. Keanu Reeves, this is from comicbookmovie.com. Keanu Reeves says that depending on how things go, there is a distinct possibility that he will end up directing Berserker, the upcoming live-action feature film based on his comic book series of the same name in which he is set to star. During an interview with Collider, Reeves discussed Netflix's film adaptation of Berserker, the script for which was recently completed by Winston. I'm going to take this fly, and I'm going to... I got it yesterday or 2 days ago. I haven't read it, Reeves said. The actor said it's still a bit too early days to consider a director though confessed that he's considered himself helming the film himself. In fact, according to Reeves, there's currently a 33% chance that he will direct Berserker. Is that it?
There's a little bit more about the Man of Tai Chi, the other thing he directed.
Okay, so he did direct something else.
So I can personally attest, having talked to the entire Berserker team, that he has been so hands-on and in love with this project that I love the idea of it, because the reason this comic is so specifically Keanu is there's not been a part of it he hasn't touched. And talking to Winston, who's a giant Keanu Reeves fan, which is funny because he's apparently a self-proclaimed Matrix millennial. He's seen the Matrix more than 1,000 times.
Oh, wow.
So, like, he's that Keanu guy.
Lord.
And then Matt Kent, who works really closely with Keanu in the writing of the comic process. And Ron Garney is the artist on the comic who directly works with Keanu. Sometimes, like, they go frame by frame with the art and things. So I've seen many comic books have collaborators that are kind of like, I'll sign it, or collaborators that are like, you can use my name on it. Right. Keanu is not a name-only producer. He is literally every step of the comic book, to the point where when we were prepping the panel, he wanted to make sure there was a certain amount of time for this, certain amount of time for this, certain amount of time for this, and those were Keanu's notes.
That's cool.
So he even cared about what I was doing regarding how the comic was presented, and the reason I got picked to do the job was Keanu had heard how much I loved the book, and he wanted someone that was in love with the book, so that expression of the comic was authentic, not like this is Keanu Reeves and friends. It was a Berserker panel. So what was really cool about the experience was Keanu Reeves stayed hands-on even through the pre-production of a panel. And so when he's doing things like these announcements, he wants to control the narrative that all of his collaborators are with him. He was, I mean, everyone knows how great Keanu Reeves is, but he basically made sure that when we were on the panel, we knew that Matt Kent was the writer. We knew that Matt Santama was running it, and it didn't become the talk about John Wick show. It didn't become any of those things. So I think him directing it will keep the integrity of it isn't just another Keanu Reeves action starter. It's this baby that came from his mind all these years ago. Because he brought it to Boom as like, hey, I've got this story. I don't know what to do with it. And they're like, let's make a comic together. And he's like, oh. So I love this.
I think there's a reason why we've had our Keanu-sans.
Yeah.
Like it started, about 5 years ago?
Well, he keeps having them. He
Every decade.
He starts out, he pops big as a massive star, right? Whether it's the comedy with Bill and Ted,
right?
And
action
then
with Speed.
and then action with Speed, and then it's like, oh, well, Keanu was great back in the day, and then Matrix hits, like, oh, he's the best, and then he takes a little bit of a break, and not break, but the level to be able to do what he's done,
absolutely.
And so Josh Horowitz, by the way, did an interview with Matt Smith, recently, and
good.
And Matt Smith started to he plays this game with his friends, and it's called Actor or Movie Star, and he brings that and Josh brings up Keanu Reeves because he talks about, I guess that he
watched it on the plane. Keanu was watching Morbius.
Morbius on the plane.
It was Morbin time.
Yeah, because Josh told him that he's playing, and Matt Smith was like, oh my God, he's like, I'm such a Keanu Reeves. And he asked him, play movie star and so Josh goes, okay, Keanu Reeves, movie star or actor? He's like, movie star. Absolutely. And he is. He's a major movie star. And you look, it is hard to navigate stardom for that long. There are very few.
Him and Tom Cruise, man.
Who?
Honestly, I'd say those two.
Who's that? Oh, I'm not Steph Ross. Sorry.
The Top Gun guy.
The Top Gun guy. That's why we need that soundbite.
What?
The Top Gun guy is for people who don't know what we're talking about. Make sure you check out Sith Council from Wednesday. But anyway, so yeah, but it's hard to navigate, and the way you navigate successfully, that is very hard to do, is you go up, you go down, you go up, you go down, and you go up, and then he did it with John Wick.
It came back again.
And he's continuously.
Constantine, too.
Well, it was John Wick, and then at the same time
John Wick.
What God? There was another major movie he was in, but then there was also Always Be My Maybe,
Which was
so that he was
As
hilarious
himself.
in.
And what's really fascinating is how much he. I hate to say a lot of people don't care, but how much he cares about his career. Like, he's so invested in each project being the right thing. And his whole team is so loving. And there's like, you hear all about Keanu Reeves, the man being great, but his entire team is that. Like, there's a reason he's cultivated.
But there's a reason why you're all so great is because you surround yourself with good people.
Those people.
Now, what he's also done very well is I think that with him, like when he started out, and whether it's Bram Stoker's Dracula or two, you never looked at him like, well, that's a thespian.
Sure.
Right? What you have got is, he's beloved. Mm-hmm. He is beloved.
Deservedly.
Even if you don't think that he is like the best actor in the world, you sure like to watch him.
Dude, it was. I remember it was that 2019 year. He had John Wick 3. He had Always Be Maybe. He had Toy Story 4.
Oh, that's right. Dude, Kaboom!
It was all of those at the same
just
time.
Voiced Batman.
Yeah.
Super
and he's so good.
And Super Pets.
And so that's the Keanu side of Berserker, right? But on the Boom side, Boom is a studio who are blowing up in a way that I've never quite seen. Like, we know Boom in the comic book world. Like, Boom is regarded so highly. And then this San Diego Comic-Con, they had one of the biggest booths. They were constantly able to move merch and books that, like, people were discovering on the day. When you go to Comic-Con, you don't, like, always find a book and it moves throughout the day. Usually it's like, oh, Spider-Man's selling and I'll pick up this other thing. Berserker was something that I saw hundreds of hoodies, hundreds of t-shirts, and it was able to move because Boom is so hands-on.
Yeah.
And what I discovered, like, I met a lot of them down at San Diego. Every part of that team is a collaborator. Like, we've talked about, going to certain studios, film, journalism, whatever. A lot of times those cubicles are giant walls. Like, you go to some studios and you're like, these people don't like each other.
They don't want to let anyone in.
Boom was the opposite. Yeah. Everyone was a collaborator and everyone was super hands-on.
You can tell there's a good passion project behind it, and they really care about it. And I think and it's exciting in general to have him doing that, because people. You see what he does, whether it's if you go back and you watch the behind-the-scenes stuff from Matrix, right? You go and you watch the John Wick stuff. This is a guy who is a perfectionist in the best way possible, obviously, and wants to get the best out of his project, especially if it's something that is his and that he loves. So this is a big, fun, long way about saying, should he direct the movie? I think the answer is yes. I think he should, but it's also if he doesn't feel like if he feels like he's got to put more into the behind the scenes, the producing of it, the starring, all that stuff. If he feels that it's too much for him, then I don't want him to do it.
And I feel like he would know. He would step away. I feel like he would trust his instincts.
Yeah. I think he would. I think I would prefer him to, because that is a lot, and this is his baby. I would almost prefer him to obviously star in it, maybe have some hand in the writing and be more of a producer and let somebody else handle the director side of things instead of trying to wear every single hat.
Unless he thinks that this is
You
his
can
thing.
see his vision of it.
This is his thing. Because look, other people have done it too. Like, say what you will
Affleck,
about
man.
Look, say what you will about Mel Gibson. Braveheart's a fantastic movie, and he did all of that.
Yeah,
he did all of it.
I always think of Affleck as like the guy because it was tiny. Don't like go hunting down the part. But I worked with Affleck on Argo. I was an actor on Argo. And it was funny because I was playing a second unit director in the movie of the fake movie. So I was working on the John Goodman fake movie in the movie. Right. So I was already playing a fake director, but Ben Affleck was the real director, but also acting in the movie.
Just watching it,
But he literally had a hat he put on when he was directing. So he literally was a guy of many hats. So you'd know if Ben was in directing mode or acting mode. He would literally like transition. But it was fascinating to see, and obviously my hero, I'm from Boston, and Ben Affleck is the guy that got out, him and Matt. But to see him like transition, think through, have conversations. Okay, now I'm back in the scene and go and frame it. And he'd have to like literally see it. But I think that's why the movies that he makes are so personal because they feel personal because they are personal. Right. And the way Keanu Reeves is with Berserker and the way that Boom is with Berserker, I would want someone that is in love with the project to the level that they all are.
Well, look, man.
And Ron Garney, look up Ron Garney's art. Ron Garney is one of the greats of all time, one of the best Captain America artists, one of the best Spider-Man artists who did the Back in Black run. He's the artist on Berserker, and the integrity of the grit and the malice and the energy is basically what makes this book sing. So I'd want a director that loves the visuals that Ron Garney brings, and there's no one like that but Keanu Reeves. So I really... Guys, this is going to be... This and Deadpool, today's the day. I just don't stop talking about these two projects.
I had a great transition out of that, but he cut me off.
I was just going to laugh where next week we find out that the artist that actually did it was Brett. Like, it wasn't this dude that he mentioned at all. Brett was actually the artist behind it.
So Flirtin' Flouse was huge on Berserker.
Hello, Stinker. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a fun episode of Capes and Cowls. We talked about a lot. So what do you guys think? Did you like the episode of She-Hulk? Are you excited? Would you want to see Keanu Reeves directing Berserker? Do you think Thing will show up in She-Hulk? What else? What else is going to happen in with X-Men and with Hugh Jackman and all this stuff? We talked about a lot. So we hope that you guys have a lot to talk about in the comments section. We're trying to get to around 500 comments today. Can you do it? Show a little. You can do it. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe. Get us to that 70,000. We're trying to get there, everybody. And we're going to have a rewatch of Shazam this month. Me, Winston, and Coy. You can find that exclusively on Patreon. That's patreon.com/thebigthingshow. If you didn't already do it, make sure that you're following us on Spotify and also subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. But if you want to follow us on Spotify, every episode we do of Capes and Cows is up on that feed. So for Coy Jandreau, close enough. And Winston A. Marshall.
That's my middle name of the show. Coy, close enough, Jandreau.
Yeah, it was good enough. We'll give you that jersey. All right, thank you guys so much for joining us here today. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on the flip side. Peace. Tiramisu.
Oh, so petty.